Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to welcome you all here and just to let you know that we're going to begin in a few minutes, but we're just going to give an opportunity for more people to join the live stream. So thank you very much for your patience. It's so nice to see that there's so many of you from all over the Philippines saying hello to us. So we just want to say hello to Batangas, to Butuan City, Cagayan de Oro, Los Baños, Tacloban, Lucena, Cavite, Makati, Taguig, and Marikina. So hello to all of you, and thank you so much for all your comments right now. We're looking out for all of those all throughout the live stream. So thank you for sharing with us today. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Lees of Endron Extension, and I will be your moderator for today. It is a pleasure to have all of you attend Endron Extension's webinar, Getting Things Done with Your Team, a project management webinar for leaders. We are very pleased to have our panel of speakers with us today, Charlie Valerio, Kelvin Gan, and Ramon John Angostora, as they cover the significance and career opportunities of project management implementation and certification, and work dynamics and the routine of a project manager. So without further ado, we're going to begin with a few words from Endron Extension's director, Miss Loida Floho. So good afternoon, Miss Loida.
Good afternoon to all our webinar attendees. Today, Endron Extension is hosting another substantial learning session, this time on project management. And there are several questions that our panel of speakers and experts should be able to answer in relation to: one, leading teams; two, being equipped with the right methods and collaborative tools; and understanding the qualifications companies are looking for in project managers. In a white paper produced by the Project Management Institute, by 2027, employers will need about 87.7 million individuals working in project management-oriented roles. But then again, there is a shortage of qualified talent when it comes to handling strategic initiatives or change management and innovative projects in general. And these skills are definitely crucial in ensuring that a successful project rollout happens, right? The role that project managers play becomes pivotal due to the expected job function, which is to ensure that strategy and action go hand in hand, and that at the end of the day, the project benefits are delivered. In fact, in the 11 countries analyzed in that same paper, it says that, this scenario cuts across all leading sectors, may it be manufacturing, oil and gas, management and professional services, or financial services, where PMs are badly needed. So, what is the job growth like in the field of project management? Is there a talent gap that needs to be addressed, and how? What certifications are necessary so that budding project managers, career shifters, and even experienced project managers may be equipped to handle huge undertakings or projects? Is it a framework we're talking about here, a formula that project managers should follow? Is it a particular method or approach that serves as a template for everyone to do? Or are we pinning down a mindset that needs to be adapted when leading teams and big projects? In this afternoon session, we have invited 3 speakers who will help us understand and appreciate the glaring significance of knowing how to project manage. And they'll also talk about the tools that are needed to aid us in accomplishing set tasks. And lastly, they will touch on the work dynamics of professional and certified project managers. I cannot wait to learn from all of them, and I'm sure you also do. Once again, welcome to this afternoon's learning webinar. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you very much for your words, Ms. Loida, and it's great to start off this webinar on such a high note. So now it's time to hear from our speakers, but first I would like to begin by encouraging all of you to ask questions to our speakers throughout the webinar through the YouTube comment section. You are more than welcome to ask any questions you may have, which will be answered during the question and answer portion at the very end. Now, let me introduce our very first guest speaker for today, Charlie Valerio. Mr. Valerio is currently the IT head of Udenna Corporation and Chief Digital Officer of Phoenix Petroleum in concurrent capacity. Prior to this, he was the Senior Vice President for IT and CIO of Metro Pacific's logistics company, Metropack Movers. He was also the concurrent CIO of First Philippine Holdings and First Gen Corporation of the Lopez Group. Charlie also spent 15 years working for Shell, serving as the Shell Global Downstream IT Program Director, Global Shell Retail Delivery Manager, Global Shell Downstream IT Strategy and Planning Manager, and Shell Philippines Downstream CIO. In addition, he has worked for Procter & Gamble for 8 years, assuming the IT Senior Manager position. Outside work, he serves as one of the directors of the Board of Trustees of the Project Management Institute Philippines chapter. Mr. Valerio will be sharing with us the significance and career opportunities of project management. So welcome, Charlie Valerio.
Thank you, Jamie, for the very generous introduction. Thanks a lot, Nuge. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to say shout out to the Phoenix folks who are, who are actually here in the call. I think there are quite a number of them here. So thanks for the support. However, you're not allowed to ask me a question, though. Okay. So I'm very delighted to be here to talk about a topic that's actually close to my heart. I mean, project management. In fact, I don't know if you're seeing my background. There's actually a hashtag in my background for the love of PM or project management. I actually coined this hashtag during the National Symposium on Project Management in 2017, where I was a co-chairperson. So I have a little bit of a romance with project management, so to speak. And if I may share, one of my advocacies is to actually elevate the project management competence level in the Philippines. And that's really out of frustration or disappointment, which I'll talk about later on. Talk about talent gap, which Lloyd mentioned earlier. So I'm actually supposed to talk about the significance of project management as well as the career opportunities related to it. Frankly, I can talk the whole day about this topic, but yeah, unfortunately, I only have about 15 minutes, so I'll just focus on a few salient points. Okay, so what I'll attempt to do is to sort of demystify the value of project management to you guys. Of course, you've heard about project management, but I don't know if you're convinced that project management really generates value. And I actually formulated a mathematical equation that I think and I believe encapsulates the value of project management. Well, actually, this is the geek in me. So I love math as well. So I came up with a mathematical equation. So if you go to, the next slide, please. Oh, okay. So, well, it shouldn't be presented this way, though. It's supposed to build, okay? So anyway, the whole thing is revealed in one slide, unfortunately. But in any rate, let's go to the top part, okay? So I don't know if you're familiar with this, with this equation. Strategy multiplied by by execution rather, equals results, okay? And what this really means is that execution has a multiplier effect to strategy. Yeah, and I think this resonates with you based on our experience, because you can have a very good strategy, but if execution is not right or sloppy, then you get a substandard result. So execution is key. Now imagine if we add discipline or the discipline of project management in the execution. So what do you get? Okay, which is already here. Okay. So project management has an exponential impact to results. And why is that? Because, with project management discipline of planning, control, and monitoring, results are actually not just better, but they're more predictable. And they are more consistent as well as more sustainable because you get things in control. Yeah, the structure, the discipline, the processes are actually there. And you know that you know what levers rather to pull when you're in the project management discipline when something goes wrong. So you don't deliver results by sheer stroke of luck or chance. You know what's going to happen because things are actually in control. Okay, so without belaboring the point, the project management provides us with, and this was alluded to by Lloyd earlier, with proven and tested structure and processes that will actually increase the probability of achieving the desired results. And in fact, there was a study done on this, which shows that there is a correlation between the maturity of project management discipline in the company and the achievement of business results. So the higher project management maturity, the better results are realized. Okay, well, I guess that may still be a little bit nebulous to you guys, the value of project management, but let me show you some quantifiable benefits. Next slide, please. Okay, so there was a mention of PMI, Project Management Institute, the great institution that I actually serve. And as you've heard, I sit in the board of the Project Management Institute Philippine chapter. And PMI conducted, although this is more than a decade ago, but still holds true today, a survey of 103 companies who implemented project management improvement initiatives. And lo and behold, these are the results. Okay, so nothing unusual. I mean, you can read through this, but average 34% improvement in sales growth, 32% on the average improvement in productivity, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there are quantifiable benefits of implementing project management discipline in the organization. Okay, now if this still does not convince you, let me scare you a little bit then. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is my short compilation of the impact of not doing project management right, or I guess the absence of it. So let me just cite two. There are quite a number here, but let me just cite two, which are both in my domain, IT. So the first bullet, so just imagine the failure of ID projects actually costs the US economy 50 to 150 billion US dollars, and that's annually. Okay, so that's the impact of project management not done well, and in this case, just for IT projects. So just imagine for construction projects, which are even bigger than IT projects, and all the other major projects in the space of infrastructure. So I'm not talking about IT infrastructure, but talk about road infrastructure, civil works, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and the second to the last bullet, it says 17% of large IT projects had gone so bad that they threatened the mere existence of the company. So just imagine that. It even threatens the survival, the existence of the company. Okay, and I hope that scares you now a bit and sort of realize the value of project management. Yeah. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide. I guess what's missing now for you to be fully convinced, to the answer is actually the answer to this question, which is what's in it for you, particularly to those who would like to venture into the project management, career path. And I'm going to share my personal experience here. So let me be upfront about this, though. A project management practitioner has a very lucrative career. So when I was in Shell, assuming a global role, I was fortunate to have access to some of the best project managers, possibly in the world or globally. And the most expensive project manager I got then actually cost me 2,000 British pounds per day. Just imagine that. That's a whooping 3 million pesos with the current exchange rate in a month. That's only for a month. And during the time, the exchange rate was not as low as right now. It used to be 100 peso per British pound. So, it was then 4.4 million per month. I'm paying this project manager. And it does not include the fly-in, fly-out costs. So we were flying her from London to The Hague and then back to London at the end of the week. So, I mean, very, very lucrative career if you're really good. Okay, so that's a big qualifier. So indeed, there is a bright future in project management. And I don't want to overemphasize the point that it is if you're really good and if you take it seriously. And this is actually where my frustration comes in. Talk about really good. So, I went back to the local scene about 6 or 5 years ago from my global stint, and I was so disappointed by the quality of project managers that we have here in the Philippines, and probably my standards of project management competence, has gone to a level that is not at par with, what's in the Philippines. And on the average, based on my experience, and well, still now, it takes actually more than 6 months to be able to fill in a critical project manager position. And that's after going through about 20 shortlisted resumes. Yeah, just imagine that. So taking a lot of time, taking a lot of effort, just looking for the right project manager for a major project. So companies actually pay good money for really good project managers because they're really scarce. Because you don't want to put your project at risk by putting in a mediocre project manager. So by my assessment, there are actually a lot of project manager roles that are currently not filled, or if they are filled, they're actually filled by substandard project managers who are mostly accidental project managers. I don't know if you've heard about this, terminology, accidental. And accidental project managers are those who became project managers by chance, or they were just forced to be project managers as there's no other choice. You're the most available person here, then go and manage a project. And most of them, when I talk to them, because we normally have in the Project Management Institute, several networking engagements, and most of them are actually saying that if they were to do it all over again, they should have taken the formal training and took the discipline seriously, because they now realize that it can really drive a very promising career. So, from if actually from a career progression standpoint, the project management path is one of the fastest way to shift from being an individual contributor to a manager. Yeah, of course, the fastest is to be part of the management trainee program, just like at Procter and Gamble. So after doing management training for about 6 months, and you become a manager immediately. But the other faster way is really get into project management. I don't know how many years it will take you to become a real project manager, but it depends on your seriousness about it. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'm going to say that the beauty of project management is that it's a generic skill, because it can actually apply in any industry or domain. It's not just in IT, engineering, and construction. This is normally, these are the two industries normally that you find, project management being highly regarded, but it's very generic and it can be applied in any industry. And the thing is that you can even apply the discipline in your personal life, which I actually did. So it's not just work, but you can use it in your personal life. And I did for a very critical personal milestone, but essentially that's for a later discussion. So hopefully we can discuss this later on, but I just want to make sure that I don't consume or go beyond my 15 minutes allocation. But hopefully that gives you, an appreciation, not just of the value of project management, but what it can do for you. Yeah, what's in it for you. And I guess that's it. Over to you, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valerio. And if I may add, what really stood out to me is the concrete evidence through the statistics that you shared with us that just proves how valuable the implementation of project management is to any organization, which is probably why project managers are in high demand. And also knowing just how lucrative being a project manager is rather enticing. So thank you once again for sharing this with us. And for everyone watching, if you have any questions for Mr. Valerio, please feel free to ask them in the YouTube comments, which will be answered at the very end. So now that we have developed a better overall understanding of the importance of project management and the opportunities it brings, we are now going to delve into the different methods, tools, and templates that are implemented in project management and the training and certification that you can receive to advance you in your career. I would now like to introduce our next speaker who will be discussing these matters, Kelvin Gan. Mr. Gan has more than 15 years of experience in the education industry, working with public institutions and companies in the region to empower students and upskill professionals. Having managed campuses in Mongolia and Vietnam, Kelvin has impacted more than 80,000 individuals throughout his career. He is currently the regional lead of the Project Management Institute and oversees the outreach within Asia Pacific, collaborating with partners to upskill and enhance employability of youths and executives. So welcome, Kelvin Gan.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Charlie. I think you did a very, very good summary of what project management is. I'm glad to be here today. Thank you so much, Underground Colleges, for inviting me over. I think this is our inaugural run of a joint presentation with Project Management Asia Pact as well as the college. And I'm also glad to meet up with Mr. Charlie, whom is also our board for our PMI chapter in Philippines. Today, I'm just going to squeeze 17 slides to 15 minutes, but hopefully you'll give a very good idea of, I think, the importance of not just project management, but in fact, the essentials of a continuous learning, especially in this very agile and very fluid environment. Next slide, please. If you look at this slide, there's a lot of contents, but I believe most of you would have already gone through whether it's the internet or whether it's Google and stuff. You realize that there is a emphasis in terms of a further education in addition to the academic. I know this very well in a sense because, as what Jamie has mentioned, I work very closely with schools, with employers, and apparently there is a certain skills gap, as what Charlie has mentioned as well. The expectations of what the candidate they're looking at, and apparently what you need to have in addition to what you have achieved, regardless of which industries you are in. So that's the importance of having a lifelong. And also to add on to what Charlie has mentioned, I think project management is definitely one such skill set, which I will go very briefly later, especially the remote working environment due to COVID. Most of us are currently working from home. And even if you do work in office, you don't really see your colleagues. And there are many, many times right now that you may need to work remotely in a team and be able to coordinate, liaise, and do the negotiations and stuff like that, regardless whether it's a very small project or whether it's a very huge one. So, and it's not, to add on, it's not definitely just for your supply chain, your engineering or IT, and so on and so forth, yeah? Next slide, please. So these are just more slides or more articles which I have taken up, but I won't really go through, but it just reinforces what I have to share in the next 12 minutes. I have a clock just right beside me. Next slide, please. So in a very broad nutshell, I think project management is both a technical competency and a soft skill, yeah? The qualification itself, or the professional qualification itself, allows you to not be an accidental project manager if you're one, if you're not. But if you're an accidental project manager, which I think most of us are, because nowadays we are not stuck, but we are given more responsibilities, especially now with companies becoming very lean, even in very small, medium enterprises. There are a lot of probability where an accountant has to do human resource roles, and the sales marketing has to do accounts roles. And all these are basically different portfolios or different kinds of responsibilities that you need to oversee. And it makes more sense that if you're able to manage each one separately and understand the entire ecosystem of what you're doing, then I think project management is something that will come into play. So if you look at this, you have your leadership, communication, and you manage your risk, and you manage your budget and everything for the company. All these are part of this thing called project management, which is also essentially a life skill. Next slide, please. It is very small, so I adapted this from Singapore. It's called the Skills Future Framework. So what happens in this framework is to demystify the myth is you don't really, your career progression is not just vertical. In fact, now more and then, there's the opportunity to go lateral. And it doesn't mean that it's not possible if you're starting out from one business unit or one function and to move on. Say, for example, you're doing sales. And it doesn't mean that you cannot do sales and marketing or even marketing alone. Similarly, if you're doing engineering, it doesn't mean they cannot do sales or even cannot do accounts. So basically, this is just to show you that amidst all this entire very gloomy kind of environment that you're in, there are many, many more opportunities that is waiting for you, regardless of which industry you're looking at. Next slide, please. So similarly, this is for accountancy. You can move on from a finance executive to an auditor, and then to an internal auditor, and to a compliance, and to a tax. So those are the different functions. And of course, each function requires a certain technical skill set. But there are many, many times where there are common soft skills which is needed. So for example, I had the pleasure of working with the Big Four in Singapore as well. And of course, some of the comments that usually they have with candidates is communication, how you interact, how's your interpersonal skills, how's your EQ, which is the emotion quotient, how are you able to understand your stakeholders' behavior, how are they feeling, how their mood, what kind of colors are they in? Are they the gold color, the green color? So different colors have different kind of approaches. Some are very numbers driven, some are very reasonably kind of motivated. So these are the different skill sets, which I hope that at the end of today, you have a better overview and exposure of what to look out for, and take this time over the weekend to go and have a read through and explore what is just ahead of you. Next slide, please. Okay, I won't go through much in this as well, but if there's any of you who are keen to understand the different kinds of career progression in different kinds of industries, do let me know. But I'll touch on to the next slide. So if you look at the job growth and talent, as what Ms. Loida has mentioned, it's basically a reinstatement. In fact, there was one slide which I wanted to add on is there is a recent report by YCP Solidians that indicated that there are several key growing sectors amid the COVID pandemic. Yeah, and it's including financial and insurance services, construction, professional businesses, transport and storage, and food and services. So the industry is not going down. All right. So what you need to have is you need to have confidence. You need to understand that there are still a lot of opportunities out there. It's just how you mold yourself and how you flex yourself to make sure you are able to hang on to them. Next slide, please. So this slide basically is just one image, but it tells you that it is valuable. All right, regards project management, soft skills, and stuff like that. It is something that is very essential. Next slide, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so I won't go too much, right? But it's basically to let you know where Project Management Institute is. If you're aware, if you're a project manager, you understand that PMP, Project Management Professional, is one of our key qualification. But more and so now, there are more and more people just taking the foundation cert, which I'm glad Enderun, we're working together with Enderun to support the learning and development needs of those in Philippines. Next slide. So these are just some of our representations of our council members globally. And you can see through this whole network of companies, it varies and it diversifies. All right, you have your IT, you have your Big Four, you have your oil and gas, you have your banks and stuff like that. So this is indeed something that is of essential and is of high valuable for your career progression. And for those who are looking to start work, having a professional qualification on top of your academic certification definitely helps to build up your portfolio.
I apologize. It appears that Sir Kelvin might have dropped out for a moment. We'll just give him a couple more moments and hopefully he'll come back in.
And that's strange for Singapore telco.
We'll give him a few more moments. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. Okay, it appears that he's dropped out from the call, but let's just move along and then we can maybe get back to him during our question and answer portion. So I would like to thank Mr. Gan, although he's not here at the moment, but it's just great information for us to know that if we want to advance in our careers or enhance the success of our projects at work, there are training and certifications that will give us the structure and that can help us refine these skills that will give us an edge in such a competitive job market. So thank you once again, Sir Kelvin. And if you have any questions for Mr. Gan, please feel free to ask them in the YouTube comment section. It's now time to hear from our very last speaker for today, who is going to give us an inside look into the day in the life of a project manager, as he shares with us what his role entails within the context of the IT industry. So I'd now like to introduce Ramon John Angostora. So Mr. Angostora is a graduate of the University of the Philippines, where he received a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. His career has spanned across work as a technical writer for major corporations, including the engineering company Emerson and Exist Software Labs. Ramon went on to spend 4 years of his career as a chemical engineer and project manager for GSG Systems. Today, he serves as the PMO of the US-based IT company, Cloud Development Resources. So welcome, Ramon John Angostora.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you very much for that introduction. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So again, my name is Ramon John Angostora. You may call me Mon. And today I will be sharing with you the work dynamics and routine of a project manager. So I hope everyone is excited. So as mentioned, I was a project manager for a local startup company. It was a digital arts company, and my department was really in charge of developing course materials and a learning management system. So now we are all familiar with that, right? It's very relevant to students and teachers with the pandemic situation that we have in the country. But currently, I am part of the PM office in Cloud Development Resources. So now we'll kind of like go to how important the role of a PM is, how you, as a future project manager, will affect the results and goals that you set for your projects, and like the daily activities of a project manager as well. So as a project manager, I treated PMBOK as my Bible. So PMBOK is the project management body of knowledge. And if I'm not mistaken, like the first 2 sentences that you will see there on the first few pages will be that project management is not new. It has been in use for hundreds of years. And that is true, right? We all have been students and we have experience having school projects. So like for schoolwork, we have been divided into like different teams, group of 5 to 10 members. And we have to submit that project, let's say for a certain period after 2 weeks. Okay, so you assign a leader, and that leader can now be considered, we'll consider that leader as our project manager. Okay, so the other members of the team will then be members with different contributions to ensure that we will be able to complete the project. So technically, that is project management. Okay, so let's say there's one person in the audience right now who is saying, "Oh, I really want to be a project manager," but is probably asking, "What should I expect? What is the role of a PM?" So next slide, please. So this is the technical definition of a project manager. So the project manager is someone who applies the proper knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. The project manager, he or she plans, schedules, coordinates, and works with people to achieve the project goal. So really, this is it. So we know that a project manager manages a project, but what is a project? So let's quickly define that. Next slide, please. So a project is an endeavor undertaken to create a new product, right? A new service or a result. So we will focus on the word temporary because it means that it is time bound. It has a start and it has an end. So the question now, when does it end? Okay, so it ends when we reach all of the objectives set for that project and when we terminate it. Okay, so next slide, please. So managing a project involves balancing all of these constraints. So we have first scope, schedule, budget, resources, risks, and quality. Okay, and you as a project manager have you really have a key role in making sure that your project moves forward and that it is moving in the right direction at the right pace. Okay, so next slide, please. So this is just like an expanded view of those constraints, and you will see this in the PM book, actually, in the book. So you have 9 knowledge areas here, and these are the main things that we will consider. But as you can see here, the main constraints will apply to any project. So to any field, it's not just IT. As mentioned before, you can do project management for construction, and you can do it simply as managing your daily tasks as well. All right. So, but I would like to put emphasis on these things as these are the ones that we will really be going back to on a regular basis. And as a project manager, these are the things that you will need to check. And usually in your checkup points, we ask these questions. Next slide, please. Are we carrying out the projects well? Are projects on time and on budget? Do project stakeholders know what they should be doing? So you as a project manager, you will be answering these questions. Okay, and then as part of the project team, you just don't aim to meet the objectives of the project, but at the same time, you make sure that you have highly engaged team members and that your stakeholders are aware of the progress of the project and that we also meet their expectations. Okay, so how do we know that a project is successful? So a project is a success if we meet these particular attributes. So one, the project met the scope, time, and cost goals. The project satisfied the customer and the sponsor. So basically the sponsor is the one who gives direction to the project. And more or less we can consider the sponsor as the one who gives the funding for that project. And the results of the project met the main objectives. Okay, so next slide, please. So these are some tools that we will not really go in detail. We will not be going in detail with these tools, but these are just examples and will be part of your toolkit. There are a lot of tools out there, and you as a project manager will help determining like the tools that you will be using. Okay, next slide, please. So you have this. So for the software, you might need an application to track tasks and scheduling. So you can actually use Excel for that. But the more popular ones will be Jira. You definitely need to use like scope statements, requirements analysis, reports, like your progress reports, may it be weekly, monthly, financial. You can also consider kickoff meetings as a tool and your change requests. So all of these will be determined by the project. So you don't really have to use all of the tools for every project. So you as a project manager, that's part of your decision making to make sure that this particular toolkit we will use for this project. Okay, and then next slide, please. This will just be an overall process, and this will be the process that will contain different process groups. But I just want to quickly touch over this. So as a project manager, you would want to start and then end the project. Okay, so when you start a project, you do the initiation activities. So that's the first part that we have here. And then a cycle of planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling. So when you plan, you do execute the plan. Okay, and then you put in some monitors and controls so that you have proper governance on the execution of those plans. So, and once all of those are done properly, then you can successfully close out the project. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. But project management as a role or a job in a company is really diverse, and it's pretty unpredictable. So that's what makes it really fun, actually. So I'll give you some kind of like a peek into my routine as a project manager. So these are some of like the activities that happen to me in a day. So usually in the morning, what I do is I check my emails. And usually you will get a lot of emails, but I do try to read every email, but you don't really have to answer every email right away. So we need to prioritize the emails that need immediate actions, and we check the items that are really important. Okay, so even with the emails, there's already management. There's also decision making on what you have to prioritize. Okay, there are also emails that you need to forward immediately to the team members, but there are emails that might need your action on it, so you can kind of like take a while and keep that email unread in your inbox. So that's kind of like falls into the communications management. So like the activities that I will be sharing with you, it will kind of relate back to the constraints that we have mentioned earlier. So this one will be part of communications management, and part of that is also determining like the audience, the recipient of those emails. Okay, so we then go to meetings. So especially now in our situation, we do a lot of virtual meetings, and I believe this is because project managers should be like the single source of truth for a project. That is really important. That will help a lot if you, as a project manager, become like the single point of contact. Okay, so when I check my meetings, it will usually be for the delivery. So we will be having meetings to check the delivery of a project, which are the things that have to be finished, like for that week, for that specific week. So we will go to the tool. So let's say you do monitor the task in Excel or in Jira or in Trello. So you can definitely use whatever tool you prefer. So you will have daily meetings to keep everyone in the team up to date with the status and progress of the report of the project. And so by doing so, we are managing the scope. We are also managing like the time as well as the cost, and making sure that the team is aligned with the goals and that we are all moving toward that goal as scheduled. So as a project manager, you will encounter projects that will have blockers. So you will assist your team members in removing those blockers. So if that blocker is really a risk, then we have to register that as a risk and properly create a mitigation plan. Put a mitigation plan in place. And that will be part of risk management for you. Okay. There will also be another meeting to align this with the client and inform them of the progress of the project. Okay. So of course, when the developers build something, we want to test it, right? So, for example, for us, let's say a mobile application that does contact tracing for a store in a mall, right? So when you have that built, we don't want to put out things that have not really been tested. So we will need the collaboration. We will need resources, QAs in the team who will do that. So as a project manager, you will provide governance that testing happened and that it had been done right. So that's kind of like quality management for you. They might also need some test devices like the QA. So for us to properly test this feature, we need this particular device. So you will now put on your hat as a procurement manager. So as a procurement manager, it will involve coordinating with other departments of your organization. So for example, you need to coordinate that in advance with your finance team and as well as your admin teams. Okay. So after that, you'll have other meetings. So for us, like the delivery meetings, it happens at the start of the week. Okay, so there are meetings that are meant for me to host, and there are meetings that I just participate. So for our delivery meetings, for the governance that had been created by our general manager, it usually happens on a weekly basis. So in that meeting, what happens is you then get a view of the run of the other projects that the other managers are managing. So in that sense, what happens is you can, for example, another project manager or another project kind of like needs an expert in a particular area, and you have that resource. So you can then discuss whether you can loan that resource to that project or not. Okay, so that kind of like gives, that is the value of that particular meeting. But there are also meetings that don't really focus on delivery. So earlier we will be discussing like the certification. So there will be trainings that the company provides to you and your team. And it is also quite common that the project managers provide the capability building for the members of their team and probably other members of the organization. So there will also be meetings for coaching and catch-up sessions to ensure that your resources are well engaged, right? And that you are addressing the issues that are not really part of the delivery. So it is important to note that you also wear an HR hat as a project manager. So you do have some functions as a project manager that will be part of resource management. Okay, so after all those meetings, usually I would go back to checking my emails, check my messaging application for tasks that I need to track and I need to kind of like address quickly. And the items again that I really need to prioritize. So usually after I covered everything, I end the day preparing and sending out the necessary reports. So the reports will go to my team members. It can go to the clients and like the internal stakeholders. And I would like to share some victories and defeats as well as a project manager. So some victories here will be successfully completed projects with approval from stakeholders. So this is really what we want. And I think for me, what I wanted to do to have really is an inspired project team, meaning if I have like a developer or a QA who comes up to me and says, I want to be a project manager in the future, that's a victory for me. So the opposite of that would definitely be the defeat. So so the defeat will be if a project has been terminated, and if you have like regrettable attrition in your team. So that will be my defeats that I personally experience in handling my projects. So that will be all for me. I guess back to you, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Angostora, and thank you for sharing with us. I mean, it was very interesting to see the exact tools, questions, and processes that you go through as a project manager, and you're living proof that having the tried and tested structures of project management has led you to all of your successes. So thank you once again. Okay, so as Mr. Angostora was our very last speaker for today, I would now like to ask all of our speakers for any last statements and remarks they have for our attendees today. So Mr. Valerio, if you'd like to go first.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Jamie. Hopefully my audio is okay. Okay, thank you. So, let me close, well, not really close because we're still going to do a Q&A, with a piece of advice, fatherly and friendly advice for those who are thinking to take taking the project management career path. You have to be damn serious about it. I'll be very blunt and honest. If you want to become a really good and highly paid £2,000 per day project manager, you can't be half-hearted because it will actually show in the outcome. And you're just wasting your time. I mean, I probably have the reputation of kicking out project managers as well as program managers. So in the past 5 or so years, I've kicked out 6 to 7 project managers. One project manager on the first day, he has to leave. I have demoted one program manager to a project manager, and kick out 2 program managers. Okay, so probably that's my reputation in the industry. But if you really want to go this path, you have to be damn serious about it, and you will know if you're cut for it or not. for me, going to the personal side, it was actually a love at first sight. I was introduced to project management in my early years in Procter and Gamble, and boy, I mean, the first time I saw it, I said, "This is it. This is for me." And I must say that I won't be where I am today if I didn't choose this path. So I leave it at that.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Valerio. And now we'll go on to Mr. Gan. Hopefully you're back with us now.
Yes, I am. So sorry. It must be the good things about or bad things about working from home. Yeah, first and foremost, I think I was cut short because of some IT issues. But yes, I do agree with Mr. Charlie. I'm glad to be here. In fact, my role with PMI Asia Pac is to work very closely with our partners, in this case, Enderan College, to support the development of the workforce, including the youth as well as the professionals and the organization. I think I mean, everyone feels very depressed and demoralized, especially in this current climate. But it's really not the end. With some industries, regardless of which industries, I think there are certain skill sets that you will need to have in order to maneuver your way around in the next 3 to 5 years, regardless. And project management is definitely one of them because it encompasses a lot of different kind of competencies that you can you can apply very, very well in. So so if there's any of you who is keen to find out more, I believe the team at Enderan College will be able to support. Yeah. If not, I mean, just feel free to follow us on social media and stuff, and try to get on board more of this kind of online learning seminars and preview sessions, and open up your mind, and it is really something that is very essential nowadays. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gan. And lastly, Mr. Angostora, just some last words from you, please.
For me, project management, it can really be taxing. It can be exhausting and overwhelming at times, but it definitely has its rewards. So for me, my resolve really going into this profession is I really wanted to kind of like, because I have been a team member for really good managers, and I really wanted to pay that forward. And for me, like now, what I do with resource management, hopefully, I will be able to inspire like the resources that we have in the company and pay it forward as well. So that's it, Jamie.
Well, thank you very much to Ms. Charlie Valerio, to Kelvin Gan, and Ramon John Angostora for those final words. I myself am feeling extremely inspired by those words, and I'm sure everyone else here in attendance would agree. So I would now like to open up our question and answer portion, where we will be referring to the YouTube comment section to answer the questions you have had for our speakers throughout the webinar. So please feel free to ask your questions as the speakers answer the rest. So let's start with one of our questions. I'll just pull them up right here. And thank you very much to all the commenters, because we have some very great questions. Okay, so for our very first question, this is directed towards Mr. Valerio. How well do we see the future of project managers right now here in the Philippines, since companies are now adopting agile environment where product owners and scrum masters are more significant?
Okay, so let me clarify a bit. Because I guess there's an impression or a myth that agile is not project management. Okay, agile is actually a form of project management, and in fact, in principle, agile, if everyone is familiar with it, it's actually used in IT more often than not. It's actually mini projects. Okay, so you do the cycle of planning, execution control, and then of course closure, but in short duration. So agile itself is project management. In fact, I've shifted from waterfall to agile, and it was easy because I know project management. Okay, it's same principle as project management. So if you're talking about agile replacing waterfall project management, probably in the IT industry, yeah, that's the case, because you can't do agile in construction. Okay, so you can't do sprints in construction. Construction is still waterfall. There's still dependencies here. So it's, it's still in terms of project management, very bright future, even with the fact that everyone is working from home. So talk about virtual project management. In fact, I just organized a roundtable on virtual project management because everyone is working from home. So how do you manage a project when everyone is working from home? But it can be done. You can do virtual project management. So very bright future still for project management professionals.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valerio. And that actually ties into our next question, who is for Mr. Gan. So it's asking more about the online platforms and working online. So the question is, what important factor is needed to make project management successful in an online platform as compared to a face-to-face management?
I think face-to-face always has this very personal kind of approach. You're able to see, you're able to get the attention of everyone in the same room for the next 1, 2, or 3 hours. But the challenges of working remotely, I think all of us have experiences. That meeting is usually that 30, 45 minutes because everyone will be very text, looking at that PC, and then you log off, and then you're basically, everyone is on their own world. So it makes important sense that the key information in a environment like this has to be informal. It cannot be a very formal setting where everybody will just lose their attention. It has to be very informal. And it has to be, as what Charlie has mentioned, it's a very flexible kind of environment. It's like things are always changing. You may be speaking for 45 minutes now, next 15 minutes, things have really changed due to circumstances which you can't control. And having that project management, as what Charlie has mentioned, it gives you that knowledge to apply differently to whether it's waterfall, whether it's to Scrum, or whether it's to Agile, depending on the industry, depending on what kind of work that you're involved in. And it will give you a better whole, whether you are a team manager or project manager, or even a team member who understands what the team manager wants. And that would certainly increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of any roles, regardless is within Philippines itself, or if you are planning to work overseas, or you are working as a freelance or entrepreneur that has stakeholders, regardless whether it's the US or UK or Singapore.
Thank you, Mr. Gan. Well, that's also very relevant to our time as well, as there is a pandemic and a lot of us are working online at the moment. So we do have quite a few questions about this. And the next one is directed towards Mr. Angostora. So the question is, with the work dynamics, how will project management be an effective tool with the experienced pandemic?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please, Jamie?
Absolutely. So the question is, with the work dynamics, how will project management be an effective tool with the experienced pandemic, which was indeed unforeseen?
Yeah, so I think for project management, we are really experiencing a lot of changes. And I think, as you've mentioned, it has been unforeseen. But for guided with the same principles, and as long as the team are all aligned, I think the delivery and the execution of the projects will still be the same. So it will really be a matter of aligning with your project team members and making sure that they are aligned with the goals of the project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Angostora. Now let's take it back to Mr. Valerio. We have it seems like a lot of people in attendance who haven't actually pursued a career in project management just quite yet, but they do have the interest. So we have some questions from these individuals. So one of the questions from Mr. Valerio is, what course did you study in college?
Okay, I actually studied cosmetology. No. Well, I graduated BS Computer Science, from the best school in town, Animo. That's Lazal. Okay. Okay, love your own. Probably Ramon won't agree with that. He's from UP. But anyway, yeah, computer science. And for me, it doesn't really matter. In fact, in the 2017 National Symposium, which I chaired, the theme that I had was, project management should be pervasive, should be inclusive, and should be diverse. And we had one speaker talked about project management being applied in music, composing music. Just imagine that, applying the principles of project management. So it doesn't really matter which. I've seen some who were, BS biology, who went into project management, because project management is a generic skill, it's a generic discipline. So for me, I'm a very structured and process-oriented person, and people working with me probably will agree 101% about that. And that really drove me to really like project management, because it's about structure, it's about control, it's about processes. So it's a discipline. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. And it just goes to show that you don't necessarily have to be a major in anything in particular. It's just well, as you mentioned earlier, it's a habit, isn't it? So it's something that you can learn and get certified for along the way. Okay, so my next question is for Mr. Gan, and we have someone who seems quite interested in career shifter. In shifting their career. So what would be the biggest challenge for career shifters who are planning to become project managers?
A career shifter who is keen to become project manager. Okay. It really depends on whether is it an internal shift or whether it is a external shift. So if it's external shift, let's say you're moving from a different industry to another one, definitely, of course, certain technical skill sets will be important, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have that in order to become project manager. I've seen several in the region. I've spoken to several, and they are project managers in an industry which they are not which they have not been working there before. So what I'm trying to say is, a project manager is able to assimilate the role of a leader in terms of making different kinds of, whether it is your stakeholders, whether it's your budgeting and schedule, and under you or working with you, you have team members who are in the operations kind of role, and they are the ones that will be able to support you in terms of making your decisions as a project manager, regardless whether it's a huge or small project. So you need to step out of your comfort zone. You need to be ready to learn. If you want to be a project manager, definitely there are different certifications, not just the project manager. You need to learn stuff like program manager and then your portfolio manager. And of course, as what Charlie has mentioned, PMI has also the Agile certification that exposes you to the different kinds of methodologies like your Agile, Scrum and stuff. So I think it's basically to step out of a comfort zone and be in an industry which you are not comfortable with. And I think that is something that will be helpful for you. And nowadays, with mid-career changes and those who graduated, just like myself, I graduated from industry, which I'm now not working in that. It really takes a lot of confidence and the hard work. And once you have that, I believe you will be able to do well regardless where you're moving to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gan. And you've heard it right from here. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. It's going to teach you some of the best lessons in your life. So I'll go on to our very last question, as this is all the time we do have for the Q&A portion. And this is for Mr. Ramon. So we actually have, sorry, just one moment. We have a question here from an engineer. And the question is, what job would you recommend taking at the very beginning of your career as a project manager? Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Ramon, you are on mute at the moment.
It happens all the time.
It absolutely does. Thank you.
To be honest, for me, I think it really doesn't matter. You can really start with anything. And as mentioned earlier, because project management will really be a general discipline, right? So from any course, from any job that you will be starting with, you will have to just practice the skills necessary, and you will be able to do project management. So it doesn't really matter. So for me, just sharing my personal experience, because I graduated as a chemical engineer, so I don't really have any background on like technical IT. But the one that I kind of like focused on, which he can, as an engineer, he can also probably relate, will be really the process. So as a chemical engineer, we kind of like been trained to really set up a process that is that works and that can be repeated. So that in that sense, that's kind of like the area that I kind of applied when I do project management. Thank you,
And
Jimmy.
thank you very much, Mr. Ramon. And that's the great thing about project management. It's needed in so many industries. So I hope you're all feeling very inspired by that. But this is all the time we have for our question and answer portion. So thank you very much for your questions. And thank you to all our speakers for those great answers. This concludes our webinar for today. And I would like to end by thanking, on behalf of Endron Extension, our speakers, Charlie Valerio, Kelvin Gan, and Ramon John Angostora, for joining our webinar today and for enlightening us with your knowledge and experiences with project management. Lastly, thank you to everyone who has attended our webinar today. It was an absolute pleasure to have all of you here. And if you would like to find out more about Endron Extension and our program offerings, visit our website, endronextension.com. Thank you once again. Stay safe and healthy and have a great evening ahead. Bye. Thank you.